Nandana Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Nitya Gaur Hariva 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 Nitya Gaur Hariva Nitya Gaur Hariva 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 Nitya Gaur Hariva Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Before giving class, I have to ask for the permission and blessings of my dear Vaishnavas who miraculously arrived today. Oh, yesterday, sorry. Did we announce that who came this morning after Tulsi Puja? No? Yes. He said, welcome, Simhachalam. Singhabhata is my old and dear friend from Riga, Latvia. We joined together early 90s, and he's come to the Singha. He's Singhabhata, he's Singha warrior. Finally, he has come to the Simhachalam, same as me. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, the beginning of the next chapter, 22, verse 3, which is describing a little bit about Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. So let's offer obeisance to Shri Vyasa. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatrayana srijaschasman Tatranaya srijachasman Dohasasrat sahasrapat Dohasasrat sahasrapat Hridayam tasya hi Brahma Hridayam tasya hi Brahma Kshatramangam prachakshate Kshatramangam prachakshate Tatraya sa Tatranaya srijachasman Dosahasrat sahasrapat Hridayam tasya hi Brahma Kshatramangam prachakshate. Prabhu. Kshatramangram prachakshate. Tatranaya chashmat chasman. Dosahasrat sahasrapat. Hidayasya sasi brahman. Kshatramangram prachakshate. Mataji? Tatranaya srijachasman Dosahasra sahasrapat Hidayasya sati brahman Karamangam chachakshate. Tatranaya, for the protection of the Brahmanas. Astrijat, created. Cha, and. Asman, as Kshatriyas. Dosahasrat, from his 1,000 arms. Sahasrapat, the 1,000-legged Supreme Being, the universal form. Hridayam, her heart. Tasya, his. He, for. Brahma, Brahmanas. Kshatram, the Kshatriyas. Angam, arms. Prachakshate, are spoken of. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For the protection of Brahmanas, the 1,000-legged Supreme Being created us, the Kshatriyas, from his 1,000 arms. Hence, the Brahmanas are said to be his heart, and the Kshatriyas his arms. Purport. Kshatriyas are specifically meant to be maintain the Brahmanas because if the Brahmanas are protected, then the head of civilization is protected. Brahmanas are supposed to be the head of the social body. If the head is clear and has not gone mad, then everything is proper position. The Lord is described thus: Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. The purport of this prayer is that the Lord especially protects the Brahmanas and the cows, and then He protects all other members of society, Jagat Hitaya. It is His will that universal welfare work depends on the protection of cows and Brahmanas. Thus, Brahminical culture and cow protection are the basic principles for human civilization. Kshatriyas are especially meant to protect the Brahmanas, as it is supreme will of the Lord. Go Brahmanitaya cha. As within the body, the heart is a very important part, so the Brahmanas are also important element of human society. Kshatriyas are more like a whole body. Even though the whole body is bigger than the heart is more important. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milaktam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today class will be like kind of consisting of 3 parts. One will be discussing just a little bit of a principle of Kshatriyas and Brahmanas protecting each other. Then there will be some session of, I'll try to read as much as time allows, some quote from the 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, where the bewilderment of Brahma is bewildered and he's trying to steal the calves and cows. And third part will be connected with the Ekadashi event today, which is in exactly the same day where my spiritual master Gopal Krishna Maharaj appeared, and a little bit of his biography and his offering on Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. So the first canto of 18th chapter, Brahmanas, is quoted, the Brahmanas are considered to be head and brains of society, and Kshatriyas is considered arms. So the body, the social body, it is created on the similarity of the body of the Lord, and as mentioned here, the arms are not just arms, this is a part of universal body of God. Although it is not easily to understand, and Srimad Bhagavatam itself a little bit of condemns the whole idea of universal body of the God, since that maybe imply of our understanding that there is nothing more, that whole universe is just a body of God, and that's it. And we are kind of maybe some germs or living beings inside of that huge body, but Vedic scriptures and Krishna himself, first of all, confirms that although everything exists like a pearl's string, he is beyond that. An example is very nice that we may see the ornaments, for example, Lord Nrsimhadev, and pearls are very nice and they're shiny, but we do not see the string inside, right? Do we see the string inside of our neck beads? Most of not. No. But unless it is inside, it will not be holding together, So therefore, Lord says, although I am kind of pervading everything, still I am completely separate. And that is the supreme philosophy of the Vedic knowledge, since there's many other schools giving different kind of interpretations actually based on the same Vedic scriptures. Since there's as far as I know, 6 main philosophies even in a Vedic teaching, and some of them say there's a complete difference, and some say just complete oneness, and finally, of course, Chaitanya said this is same time. Same time, it's complete oneness and difference as well. Probably this is most complicated philosophy, but we gradually have to understand this. So from one point of view, it is explained that Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are the head and the hands of Lord, but this is like a kind of social body or universal body. Still Krishna exists beyond that, and he has his own hands and head and heart and everything. The very important part of this thing is also that this idea of becoming a Brahman or Kshatriya was fighted. Quite a few acharyas spent a lot of time proving that the qualities and the work is the main points which have to be taken account of deciding to which caste you belong. Since I think everyone who has a little bit of a study of Indian culture, this whole thing of caste system, it is prominent, but in many times kind of disadvantaged or criticized, especially by the people from outside, and therefore saying, if we don't like the whole system, then we have to throw it out completely. It's like revolution. When revolution happens, what do you want to do? You want to throw off the king or Tsar, or depends on which country it is. But basically, the king is okay. He just have to a little bit of restrict his wife parties, or don't spend too much of his taxes to the private needs. Otherwise, it's fine. But when the revolution comes, they have to throw off the Tsar and start building from zero. And after zero up, you have to actually start building same thing. You have to have a kind of military base of protecting people, and then you have to have an intelligent class who teaching. Everything comes back. But that overthrowing kind of is a little bit of a mode of ignorance, since it is said that mode of ignorance is one, especially represented by Shiva, who is in charge of all destruction. So therefore, the acharyas took a long time and energy to explain, and Prabhupada also in purport saying that Brahmana has good chance becoming Brahmana by directions of his qualified father. In a similar way as a medical practitioner has very good chance becoming qualified medical practitioner. So if you have a mother who is a doctor, a father who is a professor, there's a big chance you may become a doctor or professor. But is it like by default? What age it's coming? 5 or 10 or 15? My father is a professor, it means I'm professor too. It sounds pretty funny. But the whole Vedic system of Kshatriyas and Vaishyas were like this, because they wanted to extend the rights to their children. So like hereditary rights of the property, it is going kind of over the children. So otherwise, what's the point of Grihastha? Earning money, spending time, and all his wealth is taken away. No, he wants to give to children, It's all to children. Although, from other point of view, really intelligent merchandise or banking class or those wealthy people, they train their children to start from zero. They don't give straight away when they are at the age of 18 give the 15 or 20% of the wealth, they just give it to them. No, they start working in a factory or the company starting from zero up, even from the garbage boys up, And this famous story of was Japanese Miyazaki, the wealthy father and the poor father. That story, a business kind of book. And it is said the wealthy father, he had this good intentions and good practices, but the son of the poor father, he worked for him even for free completely to learn the habits and the principles of business running. So those things have to be understood, that if you are trained enough, if you are gradually can, by your endeavor and by association, to develop the qualities of Brahmana or Kshatriya, then it's possible. Otherwise, cannot be. So a little bit of touch of the form. So third canto, just a little bit before these chapters, it is when the creation of the universal form is said. The power of protection was generated from the arms of gigantic Virat form. And in relation to such a power, the Kshatriyas also came in existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society from disturbance and thieves and miscreants. So the basic idea, when something is created by Lord in this universal form, it is also Ashishi Pralad Lakshmi Nrsimhadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Thank you, Yamaraj, for nice dressing today. He's shy. He's not showing up. Universal form of the Lord, there was implied that something is created, there has to be straight away protection. So the dharma, the principles of religion were created, and straight away Lord created also brahmanas who will, or supposed to, protect the religion. So then the human race, the human beings were created, and the Kshatriya straight away was created to protect the people. What comes next? Vaishya. And first the cows were created, and then the Vaishyas were created to protect the cows. And the Shudra class, the class who are working, they're supposed to be helping all three other classes, since they are not prominent on executing those duties on themselves. So it is quite interesting. Many times in ISKCON the question is raised of the things to which of the castes actually I belong. Or it's not at all. Everybody knows who he is, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Kshudra. Everybody can say, like a badge. I'm a Shudra sannyasi, or I'm a Vaishya Vanaprastha. Can be like that? Oh, we don't so much emphasize these things. Although we don't emphasize, and definitely everybody knows the verses from Chaitanya himself, then I'm not the Shudra, I'm not the Vaishya, I'm just part of Kamala or Dasa, Anudasa. But still, Prabhupada was, not like anxiety, when he was departing this world, he was saying that I gave you this philosophy, but I didn't leave you the ready set up system of social structure. So this thing still has to be gradually developed, because without those things you cannot interact. Same thing, we say, okay, we are not Shudra Vaishya, we are not the body at all. So I'm not the man, I'm not the woman, right? But still, when the interaction happens, those things have to be taken account. So if I look at the person, by the dress and by the face, we can understand this is the woman's or man's body, and I have to interact in a different way. I cannot say like, okay, it doesn't matter. it's all same. No, nothing same. In spiritual world is nothing the same. There is the same exactly classes. Just yesterday we were discussing a little bit of the Purnamasi and her son Sandipani Muni and so on. This is a Brahmana thing, and Brahmanas are in the spiritual world also very much appreciated, and they have unlimited access to everything. Just imagine somebody, some Vaishya is coming to Krishna. There must be some business, right? There must be some kind of things. And if the neighbor is coming, that maybe there is some suspicion. Why are they coming? What's going on? But if a Brahman is traveling around the Vrindavan, no problem. He has their own business. They're easy access. Vedic system, the Brahmanas are allowed without any restriction into the palace of the king, except of course the inner quarters. But such a way, Brahmanas are unlimited. They can go anywhere, you know. And therefore, the story about Kumaras came up because they wanted to go Vaikuntha, and they were not allowed. And then straight away was huge commotion. You know, like, why? We want to go there. This is our Lord, and you are not allowing. And the whole story of the curse and Simhadev and so on came up. Because only Brahmanas were restricted to go somewhere. So in the spiritual world, there is those things. And so on similar way, when we talk about currently the preachers are also, they are fearlessly, they go anywhere. You know. Of course, the merchants also may go, you know, those who are distributing the vacuum cleaners or Herbalife, you know, knock on every door, or go to any bank and then try to sell it and so on. But yeah, it's a little bit of fearlessness is there, but mostly it's like just for earning money. But the preacher, the monk can go actually anywhere because his business is to help and to preach and to save the living beings. Such a way. So a little bit of the things connected to other classes. And since Krishna is many times claiming that he belongs to Vaishya class, there was interesting purport in the also third canto. The exchange and produce of banking and transportation is a branch, and this transportation is a branch of this type of living, it's expected of Vaishyas. The Vaishyas are divided into many subsections, some of them called kshetri, or land owners. Some of them are called krishana, or land tailors, ones who actually do the plowing the fields. Some are called tilavanik, or grain raisers. Some are called gandhavanik, or merchants of the spices. And some are called suvarnavarnik, or merchants of the gold and banking. Brahmanas are teachers of the spiritual masters. Kshatriyas protect the citizens from the hands of thieves and miscreants. And the Vaishyas are in charge of production and distribution. And finally comes the Shudras, the unintelligent class. Man who cannot work independently by performing any above the mentioned activities are meant to earn their livelihood by serving the three higher classes. Of course, the humbleness is also have to take in apart, especially I remember Prabhupada once was asked, he explained this whole Varnashrama system, and one of the reporters said that, well, you probably consider yourself to be the highest class. And he said, no. I'm the fifth class, serving all the four other ones, including Shudras. So he was very humble. So you have to learn from that as well. But still, the thing, if we want to take a test to which category we belong, so it is easy. It's like even 3-4 minutes and we can stay straight away where we belong. If we are earning our livelihood by teaching, any of us do that? No. Then that probably is not the proper Brahmana engagement. Brahmana, he is teaching and doing yagyas full time, nothing else. And that is the only income for him. So that's the Brahmana. like Pujari. If he is full-time Pujari, he can say Brahminical, since he is doing nothing else. He's just doing the yagas all day long, or puja all day long. So that's Brahminical thing. So Pujaris can be seen in ISKCON, but they are doing like 1, 2 couple pujas in a week, and that's already good. And one who can once a week, it's already nice. But those who do years and years, like someone being Pujari for 20 years, that's real endeavor, and actually that's nature. It's nature. You cannot pretend to do that. It's impossible. Usually get bored. So if you do that, then it's your Brahminical. If you earn money, let's say, or your income comes from protecting people and you collecting taxes. Any of us collecting taxes? No? Goes around and says, this month you have to give so much. It's more like, sounds like mafia, you know? Those guys who go around and get the share of the profit. Probably not. If we are one of those mentioned here, selling gold or tilling the ground or protecting cows, then we are Vaishyas. But Vaishya also, very important part, that means you engage other people. That means if you are running a business, if you are having your own company or farm or something like this, and you have workers who receive the salary, then you are Vaishya. So just protecting cow doesn't mean you are Vaishya. The Brahmana can be having cow. The Shudra can have a cow. You know. The kings have cows a lot. Nanda Maharaj has a lot of cows. So he's not one to Vaishyas. He's still a king. So if you are engaging other people and paying them salary, then you are Vaishya. So basically, you say, okay, sorry if disappoint those who are protecting cows, thinking they are Vaishyas, not Hari. Because Shudra mentality is serving others. So let's say you are working in a bank. Are you a banker, Vaishya? But you're getting salary. No, you are serving the Vaishya, who is banker. He owns the money. He runs a business. But you are helping those. If you're helping in a yagya, you know, collecting wood and yes, you maybe run, you know, put together some papers and helping and stuff like that. For the Brahmana, you can do that also. Many things. Yeah. If you are in the government, you are a policeman, but you are receiving salary. Are you the Kshatriya? Not really. Yes. Or you are working in government, but yeah, you're not really. The ones who are actually protecting, who are doing. So therefore, the test is quite simple. So therefore, it is said, Kalau Shudra Sambhavan. We are born originally to serve everybody else. But if we are gradually, by associating with those higher classes, become like them, then we can say, yes, we are Vaishyas or Kshatriyas, especially Brahmanas. So, one more quote, just a little bit more from next verse. I just took a little bit of a head. Somebody's giving class tomorrow, so it'll be one part I'm quoting here. So he creates Brahmanas about the Lord for protecting Kshatriyas, and Kshatriyas for protection of Brahmanas. He remains aloof from all activities. Therefore, he is called Nirvikara, without activity. This is a very important point, since many times we can say, okay, Lord protects or Lord maintains. But since we are talking about material nature, is it not mentioned that Lord never interacts with anything material? How is then it is said that Lord maintains material world, still is completely not touching or not interacting at all? It's a little bit of a contradiction. Anyone knows the good answer for that? Sorry? Right? Right, but who is doing activity of maintenance? Yeah, it works under material nature, true. But it is said that via media of demigods, the Krishna protects the world. He maintains the world. So we can say the main demigods like Brahma and Shiva, they are in charge of creation and the destruction. But like Indra, himself maybe not in a pure goodness or any goodness. Yeah, he has a mixture. Well, actually, any demigod has a mixture of those material gunas, which are three main ones. But because they are in charge of maintaining the order, especially Yamaraj, especially one. He's in charge of maintaining the order, proper thing, and giving everything. So it is mentioned many times by Prabhupada that via media of demigods, he is protecting the living beings and the universe. Not doing him directly. But when the question is coming to devotee, and he is surrendering to Lord, his vision and his interaction with Lord is direct. Because he, although sees demigod, he never sees him independent from the Lord. He never fails to show the respect to demigod, but still he sees he is only able to protect because he is invested with the energy and power of protection given by Lord. So his vision is non-dual and devotional, and he actually interacts with the Lord. So, I don't know. Next session is coming, which I prepared quite a bit, and this is 26 verses. I don't know how much you can read. Maybe I should summarize. The thing is, with protection and the appearance of Lord, it has a little bit of a background story coming from Brahma, the same Brahma, which is a head of our Sampradaya, and he one day he decided that well, it's not just decided, he looked at the Lord and saw him playing around with the cowherd boys and hanging and taking one of the big piece of, I think it was laddu, those who are knowledgeable can correct me, in the left hand, and he was taking with right hand and eating and stuff like that. And he said, well, some acharyas say he didn't really understood that's Krishna, Supreme Lord. Others Maharajas say, like for example Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that he understood that's his Lord. But I also want to show some fun, some mystical potency, something for him. So therefore, he decided, I shall steal. First of all, he lured away the calves, and all the cowherd boys were actually sitting. And the sitting of the cowherd boys was also quite interesting. They were sitting around Krishna in circles. And Krishna, similarly, like in a rasa dance, exhibited his power, and what's the name was Sankalpata Shakti, Sarva Sankalpata Shakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti explains he exhibited his power, and by that power, everyone who was sitting around, he saw Krishna having face him alone directly. So every of the cowherd boy, doesn't matter which direction they were sitting, they were thinking, oh, Krishna is looking at me. I offer him food, I'm interacting with him. And those guys sitting in the back with him, they facing back. And opposite, those cowherd boys who were sitting in the back, they saw Krishna facing them. So this is the Sarvasakalpa Shakti. And by that potency, he was able to interact with everyone directly. So that was quite interesting point. So those cowherd boys, they were really, really enjoying. They were telling jokes, and one of the classic jokes is you say, okay, I'll give you something nice. Just close your eyes and you put some flour. And then more mischievous, you have samosa or kachori, no? Famous food of Prabhupada was kachoris. And you pinch the hole in the kachori and you put inside jasmine flower. Everybody tried the jasmines? What's the taste of jasmine flower? Quite bitter. It's quite bitter. So you put the jasmine flower inside and you give like that. You don't even ask to close the eyes, they just give it. And somebody eats and like, oh, and they were having this fun chasing each other and mock fighting and those who do those jokes. And yes, and they were telling jokes to each other and said, oh, a monkey is coming, you know. You should not come so openly. If you come to steal our food, you should hide yourself, you know, like you know, in a stealthy mood, you know. And you are running around and trying to, no, you're not going to cheat. So all these fun were made by those coward boys. But when Brahma saw that, he tried to make this fun, and actually he was thinking, and Vishwanath Chakravarti, he has his ability to say, besides the lines, he's saying that Krishna was thinking. Like in Bhagavad Gita, he says the verse, and then he says, but Krishna was thinking this, and Arjuna was answering him that. And there's like whole additional conversation going. And after a few minutes only, it switches to next verse. So similar way also, it is said, which is not said in the verses, that Brahma was thinking, let me do some mischief. And I can actually hide those things. I also have some mystical power. But straight away, when the whole idea came, first of all, of course, Brahma was thinking that Krishna is not aware of it. You know, that point of view, he understood kind of things that Krishna is Lord, but it is said he was a little bit of a covered by the illusory potency, and such a way he didn't take into account his omnipotency, because he is as a super soul sitting in everyone's heart. Just imagine. And Brahma is sitting thinking, I will do this. So is it possible to happen those things without notice of Krishna? And Vishwanath says that he was aware of every single thought, every single intention, what he wanted to do, Krishna knew that, but didn't show. So when Brahma said, I will do some mischief, Krishna sits and he knows there's a Brahma, and he's sitting and he's thinking those nasty, mischievous thoughts, and he was aware of it, but didn't show up. So when he actually was stealing coward boys, it's interesting enough, Krishna hid straight away the original coward boys. And similar, like in the story with Sita and Rama, when Sita was stolen, when she crossed that line, put around the house, the real Sita disappeared, and false Maya Sita, like fire God created Sita, appeared. In a similar way, all the coward boys were actually straight away created by illusory potency. And all those boys who were stolen were not really coward boys. They were created by illusory potency of Maya. And they were put in a cave. So there is no chance of eternal associates of Krishna being able to be stolen by Brahma at all. It's just impossible. It's just unimaginable. So any of the eternal associates of Krishna cannot be covered by any demigod's tiny potency of illusion. So therefore it is said that yes, the Maya, the illusory coward boys were put away in a cave. And of course the whole story goes, why whole thing? Because Krishna actually wanted to do that. Anyone knows why Krishna wanted to do it? Yes, Prabhu. Yes, not only actually, he not only copied himself as a coward boys, also calves. Since, well, we have to say they didn't copy the cows, since that age was quite young, and Krishna was not that given the ability, or not given the duty, to look after cows. It was much, much later. So that age happened that Krishna was only a smaller boy, and he was given the chance to only look after cows. So the cows were stolen. And he expanded himself, and he expanded so perfectly that everything was exactly the same. The dress, the habits, the inner thing, even the memories of those coward boys were recreated completely. So when they came back to their mothers, they remembered the previous interactions. The recreation of things was so exact and complicated that nobody could notice. Only thing was different, that everybody was interacting with the coward boys for that year, the whole year. Completely ecstatic, because they were interacting with Krishna himself, with his expansion. Yes, and cows were like unbelievable. And even more interesting point is mentioned by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He is giving a seminar on Brahma Samhita. He says that, previous story goes like, you remember that Krishna was stealing the dresses of coward girls? They were doing the Katiyani, the winter ceremony of dipping in the cold water, and to have a complete proper result, they were doing that without clothes. So it's even more cold, Even the small thing, it's a little bit of a warmer thing. But if you're completely, in the December months, it's just unbelievable. It's cold. So the dresses were stolen, and when gopis got their dresses back, there was kind of intended that, yes, he's supposed to be husband, but that was just like a prelude, the thing. That year, when Krishna expanded himself as all coward boys, suddenly Purnamasi came up with the idea, this is very auspicious year. All the coward boys should get married. In such a way, actually, when Krishna expanded himself, that year, all the gopis actually got married. That's why we can say, there was nothing wrong with him dancing with gopis because they were his wives. But of course, Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami especially says that these stories are meant for those who think that Krishna is not very chaste. And I definitely know one story Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami is telling that there was one Indian Mataji, and she would never, a similar way like would those who worship Ramachandra and Hanuman, they would never think about changing the rasa of Hanuman, of some other thing as a servant. So similar way, she was never thinking that I would worship Krishna. He cannot be God. He cannot be God because he was dancing with some other wives. So she would condemn Krishna. She was Ramachandra is God, but not Krishna. He's some, imposter. And she was like chaste. There was like generations of proper worshipping of Ramachandra, and still the heart was not inclined to do that. So for those people who could blame Krishna for doing something wrong, of course, all these stories come up, that Krishna married everyone, so on. But we know the original relationships, interactions with the Vrindavan inhabitants are based on rasa, which is not married, especially gopis, and even all the other ones. They are supportive. All Vrindavan is supportive of this Mathurya Paraki rasa. And since this gives actual the intensity, if you have to meet and there's a limited time, just imagine gopis come in the morning, they want to see Krishna, but they cannot exactly directly. So they can go in a distance, because currently what's happening, Yashoda Maya, she's preparing food, and the coward boys, they're fussing around and saying, well, we're going to do this and that, and gopis cannot go there. And then later on during the day, they also with the coward boys, they're also spending all day with coward boys in the forest and stuff like that. So evening time, again, he's coming back and he's bathed. So practically the time to meet Krishna is so limited. So therefore, this intensity of Parakya rasa, when Krishna doesn't belong to me, and there is no chance, and I have to like squeeze and find the chance to meet Krishna, it is also possible and intensified by that relationship with of unmarried. Since in a Dvarka, all the queens, Krishna is mine, He comes to my house every evening, and I can speak with him, interact with him as much as I want. Of course, not as much as you want, only in the evening, because in the daytime Krishna goes away. But still, the mentality is, it's easy. Krishna is mine, Whatever I tell him, he'll do it. He'll bring parijata flower or whatever, build a new palace or get me some jewelry, whatever. But Krishna, no. So therefore, at the same time, there is a stories on this like that. So Krishna, it's 5 minutes left. I wanted to switch to the story of Brahmanas and stuff like that from the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Brahmanas a little bit switched to the topic of sannyasi. So actually it's Bhagavad Gita, sorry. In Varnashram institution, the sannyasi, or the person renounced all their life, is considered to be the head of spiritual master of society. So I didn't actually finish the story of the, I just see the time and I want to switch to the next subject. But the finishing touch of the story of Brahma and stealing the cows was that when he expanded himself as those coward boys and coward girl and calves, Vishwanath says that also proves that he is having 100 or 1,000 of hands and heads and everything. So from one point of view, you can say, of course, the spiritual form, which is externally expressed as a universal form, it is kind of imaginary, but at the same time, when we could imagine ourselves taking a part in this lila of Krishna expanding himself, we can say that's all Krishna's heads and arms and legs, and all the Vrindavan is full of Krishna. So from one point of view, it is universal form. Here, kind of imaginary one, but even those inhabitants in Vrindavana, if they understand and get esoteric knowledge of Krishna's pastimes, which most of the time is not shown, is only shown after it happened already. So all the books in the Vedic scriptures are explaining those pastimes only after everything happens. So during the happening, everybody is bewildered. And that's Maya, or Lila potency, is doing that. So Lila potency, she was thinking, let's help Krishna and all the pastimes happening. Oh, Krishna. I wanted to switch a little bit of the subject from above all the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas are the sannyasis and especially spiritual masters. And today is the appearance day of my Guru Maharaj, and I met him long time ago, actually as usual by blessings of devotees, and one of the first my spiritual masters who instructed me was Rupa Raghunatha. He's also was walking on the sticks for a long time, and when I approached him how to choose and what to be the proper way to choose my spiritual master, he said, the one who is able to attract and control your mind. And this is a interesting thing, that many saints and brahmanas and gurus are around in ISKCON, but sometimes to choose and to follow one person is not easy. But if you are convinced that he is the one who will be able to help me control my mind and forward it to Krishna. He is the one. He is the one who I was willing to follow his instructions and dedicate my life. So of course these things doesn't come straight away, and Sankarshan Prabhu also said it took for him 40 years to come to that conclusion. Sankarshan Prabhu, one of his disciples of 40, he said, of course, in a beginning stage we have also this, but when we look back, we understand, maybe that realization of a real deep meaning comes much later. So, in the first year, maybe we understand, surrendering to Krishna, that's easy. But when we have to give up our habits and completely think of Krishna, nothing else, as he is our master. So, those things only can happen by the blessings of devotees or spiritual masters who have this quality, have this conviction. So therefore, I can also say this 40 years haven't turned around, and my complete conviction of or surrendering to Krishna, and especially to the spiritual master as a representative of Krishna, is still coming up. So I met him about a year later when I was given advice to choose my spiritual master, and my first obeisance was like this. And Maharaj was obeisances giving to the altar, and the room was extremely small, probably like a 1/6 part of the whole altar room. It was so small. And everybody has tried to do the obeisances, like a fool. And I was trying to do also, and I realized this is my spiritual master's feet in the front of me, like, okay, that's confirmation. It's a proper person. Some facts of biography from Maharaj. Yes, he is quite early, in 68, he already met Prabhupada. Even before meeting Prabhupada, he arrived in the temple where he was supposed to Prabhupada come, and straight away he said, maybe I do some service. So he was cleaning room of Prabhupada even before meeting him, so that was a kind of impression that he was in a very, very strong service mood. And some years later, he actually next year he received initiation. In 81 he received sannyas. Next year he was given a chance to initiate disciples. 82, same year as this temple was built, so it's kind of coincidence. 67 he met Prabhupada first time. It's exactly the year I was born. It's a little bit coincidence. He's born in Ekadashi. All my 3 children are born in Ekadashi too. So it's a little bit. You're born in Ekadashi? Huh? So some coincidences happen to be. But if I got controlling mind, I can say I had a little bit pay a bigger price. And when initiation ceremony happened, usually Maharajas give a class before initiation, you know that. And he was giving class, and at the end of class said, our initiation happening, and my disciples will have not 4, 5 regulative principles. I was like, everybody was surprised what's going on. And he said, yes, before the classical 4 regulative principle, the 5th regulative principle is control your mind. So each of us, which were giving the vows of initiation at 92, first 6 disciples, Maharaj in the country, we are supposed to give the 5th regulative principle and control the mind. So that still is going on, that development. I have to gradually develop. So, but gradually somehow happened, the Soviet Union fell apart, and Maharaj was not any GBC anymore in Latvia. He still remained GBC in Russia, and many other countries, like first of all India, and Canada and Africa, so on, so on. But my recent visit was most amazing. Last year in January, I met him in Vrindavan. Actually, not in Vrindavan, Delhi. I was in Vrindavan, and there was no chance, and I had to go to Delhi straight away to temple, and he was there. And the first thing he said, "Oh, Atmarāma, I haven't seen you in 15 years." And he said two things. He's intelligent but mischievous. I didn't know to say it as a compliment or something like that. It was tears in my eyes, and I was very happy. But achievements which Maharaj did was most impressive. When his disciples told that currently in the Delhi there is 14 temples. Not one, the famous temple of Glory India. There's 14 temples. You know how big city of Delhi is? Population-wise? About 20 million. How big is Germany? 80 million. So 14 multiplied by 4, we could have easily, in the same scale, 60 temples in Germany, right? Proper temples, and most of them are built from zero up, from ground up, you know. We have currently like 2 buildings owned by ISKCON, you know, no, 2, 3, you know better. So restaurants hardly, even Czech Republic, you know, in Prague they have 3 restaurants. Whole Germany has 0. Right, strange. So we're a little bit slowish. So if we would have a chance or blessings of such a pure Vaishnavas, we could expand such a preaching thing much more in Germany. So everyone who is willing to do so, let's try to surrender and receive the blessings of Maharaj today, who is especially empowered. He was empowered quite early, even before Prabhupada's last year, 76, he was given full independent rulership over Vrindavan and many other Mumbai and stuff like that. There was only the GBCs, but Prabhupada saw he has done in 1 year. Tamal Krishna Swami said, he did in 1 year more than I would be able to do in 4 or 5 years. So his management skills are, of course, we can say, based a little bit of his education. He first studied business management in New Delhi, then he moved to France, to Sorbonne, and finally to Montreal. It was business management education for very long years. But yeah, when he was in charge of marketing in a Pepsi Cola company, he was met by Prabhupada, so he straight away moved out. Yeah, first donations and marriage, but pretty soon he took sannyas, and since that time he was all the time in India preaching. And his pranam mantra is saying he is the person who is always distributing, printing books, and preaching. So these 3 things is his pranam mantra main things. So therefore, all of us, let's pray to Prabhupada, so his disciples like my Maharaj can give the blessings, and we gradually can become servants of those such a great personalities. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I try to tell more, but time is limited. Any questions, comments, please? Yes, Prabhu. What about? All right. So you say that I'm saying that those masters are less qualified. Of course. the main thing what we should take as a principle from Srila Prabhupada, and there's a very, very nice quote which is explaining that both book distribution and temple building should go hand by hand. And if we understand that there is a huge, enormous book distribution in Delhi, since that building have to come from somewhere. Of course, the main sources could be there's a general donation or some big Vaishya is donating, doesn't matter. But the book distribution is a cause for funds to come. So, of course, Lakshmi, she has unlimited wealth, but she decides to give that wealth through the devotees. And through the devotees means they have to become devotees, right? So Karmi would never spend his money for any strange project like, Sri Ram Swami just once told this interesting thing that some devotees, they wanted to take over in charge of the farm in Hungary, some kind of like Vaishya mentality. And one of the first things they declared what they're going to do, they're going to cut the funds of the flowers offered to the deities. So that was completely like a useless spend of money. So they could expand more buildings or preaching or something like this, Interesting. So obviously they didn't succeed in taking over the management of the farm, since there's still flowers and enormous amount of flowers being offered to the deities. So also the thing is, when you have those things, people are wealthy, or they even not so wealthy, they want to donate if they are convinced this is the proper thing. So the preaching will be always the sharp point, the point which has to go first. Prabhupada's first thing was books and distribution. And later on, when those books were distributed, of course, those times maybe in the books itself could fund the whole building. But we know the story, the same Rupa Goswami, he also, one point of view, he was writing books, at the same time he also establishing temples in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada says those two things have to go side by side, but also by the time. It's also mentioned, don't spend too much endeavors or building temples. Main thing is chanting, main thing is devotional practice. So if there is a funds, you should engage in for temples. But if there is none, this is not the point. We can chant on the street, we can chant in the forest, we can, Haridas Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, just chant on the streets, There will be temples, good. No temples, we can chant anyways. So books, books explaining, but the chanting is the main thing. So books are meant to convince that chanting is good. So anyone who becomes devotee because of chanting based on books can donate to the temples. So if you think that the business of working for some other people are more your situation, that's true, that Germany, we better, I bet there's many devotees working in restaurants. I was working in a restaurant myself many times. In a Krishna restaurant, in a Karmi restaurant, but I never had this inclination to make a restaurant myself. Never tried. So this is a mentality. So if the Germans around here not so much into the building temples or donating, so it's cool, nothing wrong with it. But there has to be endeavor, and acharyas show which direction to endeavor. The chanting, the books, the preaching, the stuff like that. And if there is funds, you build temples. Yeah. So do you mean that we should improve the preaching has to be improved. Yeah, definitely. Yes. Everything. To reach the public out. So being here in the farm, this is the hospital or training grounds. The temple is always training grounds. New bhaktas, new devotees come, they get aware of culture, they get accustomed to the philosophy, but they have to imply that this is just the beginning. Of course, at the age of maybe 70, not so much intense, but Prabhupada is unique, maybe. Maybe some of us have to go at the age of 70 to China or somewhere else to preach, to get blessings. Who said that? One of the seminars, that if you can convince one Muslim to become Krishna conscious, then your life is successful. Just one, don't need more. So if every devotee convinces one Muslim, so just imagine how many devotees there. Just convince Muslims to become devotees. So. My advice is to receive the blessings of the Vaishnavas. Since Prabhupada said himself, it is impossible to preach unless you are empowered. So to get empowered, you have to actually have endeavor to please Krishna and please his devotees. So when you please a devotee, spiritual master, sannyasi, brahmana, who is head of Krishna's social thing, if you please the brahman, if you please spiritual master, he is happy and he will, the love, the devotion, the preaching mood of Prabhupada, which he received in his heart, will jump to your heart. It's again the Madhura Kadambini explains how the devotion is expanding from one heart of devotee to other. So if you are able to please your spiritual master, able to please Prabhupada's disciple himself, then that preaching, Chaitanya's preaching essence will jump from his heart to your heart, even unknowingly. No, you don't have to have blessings or have to words. If you are pleasing Prabhupada, if you're pleasing your spiritual master, then this devotion to Chaitanya, to his mission, will sprout in your heart. You will have blessings of this. And you'll be actually empowered to preach. You'll be empowered to make more and more devotees. So therefore, this complete surrender to the instructions of spiritual master is essential. This is the first 64 items. This is the first principle. Surrender spiritual master. Follow his instructions. So there's one more coin. Yesterday was the inaugurated coin of Prabhupada. And this coin also made one coin. And I think this is the 3rd canto, 14th chapter, something like this. There's Prabhupada's quote. The appreciation to spiritual master is to follow his instructions word for word. So this was the Prabhupada one side and the coin the other side. So this is another coin made by ISKCON also. So like this. Yes, Prabhuji. Krishna. I will do, sure. Right. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. There is no question of dresses. The question of the desire to surrender to Krishna. Yeah, we can say eternally. Like in Indian tradition, we know the ladies are worshipping Shiva to have a husband like Shiva. Of course, they wanted to follow the same system of Katya Nivrata, and they wanted to Krishna become the husband. The desire is there, but dresses were just kind of external expression of things that you don't supposed to appear without clothes to anyone. So of course the age was like 5 years, 5 or 6. It's quite early. So in that age there is nothing like that, like some even in this age in 5, age of 5, there's nobody thinking of sex at all, like that way. You don't even understand those things, you know. So therefore, those interactions were extremely innocent, you know. Like kids play around and let's get married at the age of 5. Oh, it's not true. You have to. Sure. All right. All right. Yes, I heard of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they to give it clothes. Right, right, right. Yeah. The Krishna Maharaj mentioned that thing that yes, there's so many coward boys, but out of many, he chose those ones like completely like kid-like, you know. They didn't understand what's going on. So therefore, he took them. And there is this principle of being innocent. And Manjaris, the small girls, they are many times they are also serving the divine couple in such a way without any personal desire of anything. So clothes were given and taken and given, but pastime is always. Chaitanya is doing himself, right? So he was also doing the thing when he went to shore. Also, he didn't steal, but he mixed it up. So he took the man's clothes, put the woman's clothes, put the woman's clothes to the man's clothes, such a way, and then when he comes to shore and have the dress, and like instead of my dhoti, there's green sari there, you know? Like this. It was such a fun, you know. And they were complaining to Mother Yashoda, and of course Yashoda, Sachimata. So in such a way, his father also tried to chase him and beat him because of that, but it's all similar pastimes. So clothes were just a kind of instrument. Although we can understand everything in a spiritual world is a personality. So maybe if taking that in accord, I can definitely quote that the vegetables are personalities. So if you cook the vegetables too long, they start to scream in a pot and saying that we are cooked, take us out. So in a similar way, maybe the hotis also and the saris are in personalities, and they expand and definitely touched by the hand of Krishna, they can increase their beauty. But this is just a logical speculation. I haven't heard anything like that. Let's finish and start fasting. Oh, Ekadashi today. Yes. So Ekadashi, and I can read from the Ekadashi description there that everybody who fasts today completely, he's 100% cleansed of his any possible sins in the previous life, this time or the previous times, like completely. But those who cannot fast, there is one more sentence. Even those who hear about the glories of Ekadashi have received the same result. So you can choose. Hare Krishna. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prahlad Lakshmi Nrsimha Deva Bhagavan ki jai.